welcome back. Picking up from where we left, Dr. Prince, I'm still going to be throwing the question back to you.
Right.
How would you tell, or what would you do as a person to make sure where you are going to put your money is a legitimate place, or it's a legitimate company that you are investing or putting your money as a safe place? How can you tell?
Rick, to be honest, thank you so much for actually asking me this question. You know, I believe around 2016 when this I like to use Menzgold as an example because it's the only trending issue at the moment. A friend of mine told me about them, and I started looking into it. And the first thing I saw was all these big musicians, Shatawale, Becca, even some gospel artists, talking about Menzgold. And from afar, I thought, this might be a very, very an easy way of making money. In fact, as you're here, KK, my very good friend, Mr. Kusi, Sia, in that case, what do you think I should have done?
Doc, I'm also going to be throwing this back at you. I believe you are an expert in a field, right? Medicine. Let's say I have a little daughter. I don't have a daughter anyway, right? Let's say I have a little kid, or even myself, I'm sick. And,
you're promoting yourself to the women out there, right? He's single.
And let's say I'm not well, and I need to just walk to the pharmacy,
right,
to get something, right? And I know I have a friend who's a pharmacist, so I have a friend who's a doctor. What would I first do? I'll call my friend and say, oh, what do you think? I know you've got an expertise in this area. So I'm not well, I'm not this, So what medicine do you think will cure my problem? Because I think what you are asking me now is like, you have money, which is not a sickness per se, but you need it for something, right?
I do understand what you're saying. But in the field of medicine, we have a whole lot of regulations. So confidentiality is one of the biggest things we need to observe in terms of looking after people. Now, I don't actually want my friends to know that I have this amount of money. And I also found that some guys who work with some of these banks in Ghana actually. We're talking about Menzgold and the fact that actually they actually invested some
all that. So let me say I'm just ordinary person. I'm just ordinary person.
Seriously,
my education level is not that big and so on. I have money. I don't want to misspend it. I want to keep this money for rainy days. What things should I look out for with the company that I keep this money safe with?
First of all, right, we do know, or growing up, we've seen some banks which have been in existence for years. You can mention GCB, ADB, Stanchart, Barclays, and all these things. They've built their reputation not because celebrities were actually endorsing them. See, this is where we have to be vigilant, because it's your money. Once it goes, it might not come back. See, all these banks are there for a reason, and these banks have professionals which are manning them. So the first thing that you need to do if you've got cash, first of all, is to put it in a reputable bank. Emphasis on reputable bank. The reason why I'm saying reputable bank is this. These banks that we know I've mentioned, right, are actually banks that have been there not 10 years, not 15 years. They've been there for 30 years. And we can see them on our high streets. We may even have friends or family members working there. What you shouldn't do is to give your money to your friend that they should put the money there. They might not even do that. So you go in the bank, meet the bank manager, because the office is there, it's physically located. And what I've seen with banks is that once you enter the bank, it tells you who their regulator is. Bank of Ghana license number, so and so. So if you can capture that information, try and confirm that it is actually true, that they are regulated by the Bank of Ghana, or whichever regulator that is. Once you see that, they also have their company registration number somewhere on the premises. They would also tell you what their number is. Just confirm that company is actually not insolvent. Because today you've seen the number, but tomorrow maybe the bank might not even be there. So all these checks are things you have to do. But first of all, go with reputation and a brand. Not something that you've seen on TV and your favorite person is doing. Those things are very fleeting. They can come and go. But once you've done that, because first of all, we have government treasury bills as well, which have been there for ages. Some treasury bills do give you maybe 10% per annum. You see, the catch where this, you are not expecting your money to be doubled. Other than that, you'd have gone to the Mala. Is that not the case? Or you'd have engaged in Sakawa. But you want your investment to grow in line with inflation. So the moment you start that, okay, you have money to invest, that's the beginning of your financial education. You don't send a kid from class 1 to write BC. You know the kid is going to fail. That is what most of our people have done. And sometimes you look back like, I've got 100 million old Ghana cedis. I will not just give that money to somebody. Then you might as well just give to your pastor. At least there's blessing in giving than receiving, right? But even your pastor, you would not do that, would you? Not many people actually like to pay tax. So if you are putting your money or you are giving your money to someone, just be mindful. At least err on the side of caution. Make sure these regulations are in place. Let them tell you how much they are going to give you. Sometimes if it's too good to be true, then you have to be careful. Because if Menzgold promises to give you 7 to 10%, not per annum is plausible. But every month, that means by the end of the year, you'd have gained how much? 120%.
Right.
Oil prices don't even jump that much. That's what we have to be careful.
Doc, let me come back to you. So, you as a person, do you think it's the job of the government to literally educate people about all these things, about where they need to put their money in and where they shouldn't go and so on and so forth?
I think yes. Government has some responsibility of making sure that education goes out there to people who want to invest. But I think the biggest of that responsibility lies in the individual. You made your money. We say hard-earned money.
Right.
Okay, money.
It doesn't come back. You really need to sweat before.
So having that money, you have to educate yourself, make yourself aware in terms of the do's and don'ts, and ask as our honourable friend is here. Ask people with the expertise to give you to help you with that knowledge. And also I think the media also has some responsibility in terms of educating the public. You do find that most of the people engage in and societal discourse, some of them just worry about views and listeners and how much money they are going to make, or whether or not they'll be able to close their books at the end of the day. But they need to take some responsibility in terms of.
Look, I have an issue. I have an issue with this education thing. Must the government have to actually educate us about everything? Some issues, yes, I agree to some level. But when it comes to investing our money, if the government has put in place regulations and systems that works, and they issue licenses to organizations that are credible, then there wouldn't be need for the education of the people, because they know this company is a new one, it exists, we have given them the licenses, and they're operating within the limit or the capacity that we've licensed them to. So there wouldn't be any education needed for the ordinary person for them to know, oh, this is a good one, this is not a good one. So for me, it's a failure on the part of the government for the fact that they don't really regulate such mushrooming, let me use the word mushrooming, or these growing sort of sectors that just come in and then a lot of people with we're going to give you that, we're going to give you this interest, so amount of percentage and so on. I think the government needs to be blamed when it comes to that part.
You see, let me be charitable in certain respects, right? Let's say you've made your money. It's your money.
Of course, it's your money.
What do you want the money for? You want it to grow. You want it to invest.
Right.
So you meet people who actually can do that job for you. Right. Let's say ordinarily, if you're a father and you have a daughter, there are many men around. You just give your daughter to any man around to marry.
Of course,
you don't do that. So that is something that you have to do with your money as well. You just have to be careful. Caution is the thing. And coming to the government issue, the government has institutions like Bank of Ghana, Securities and Exchange Commission, right? We have SNIT, or Social Security and National Insurance Trust. We have a pensions board. All these things are regulators. If you want to invest in pensions, pension regulatory board is there. If you want to do, there's National Insurance Commission and all these things. They deal with different aspects. Bank of Ghana is what we know, or we've known over the years. But all these finance, you see, finance is not just bank. Insurance is also finance.
Absolutely.
You understand? Pensions is also finance. And all these bodies are there. And they are there for a reason. They have offices spread out in the regions. Go to them, ask. They'll tell you. If not, I'm also saying that, you see, what I know is that Bank of Ghana actually sent out circulars warning the public, right, about Menzgold. I've written an article on it. They should have gone and shut them down. They had
it was just warning the public enough.
It was not enough. You see, the thing is, what I've realized is that there are even people in Bank of Ghana who are not sure whether Menzgold fell under their remit. It was. They were deposit-taking institution. And even if they are not deposit-taking, who issues the currency of Ghana?
Bank of Ghana.
So anybody who uses that legal tender, there's an emphasis on legal tender for illegal activities, you have the right to go after them.
Right. Let me come to you again, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's relevant for us to politicize every issue that we come across, especially like with this monetary sectors collapsing here and there, back and forth, and the people losing their money? Is it really relevant for us to politicize it?
Well, obviously not. That can be actually very dangerous, because in a country such as Ghana, where we have two very vibrant political parties, once an issue becomes politics, one group take one point of view, other group takes one point of view, and instead of dealing with the issue on the floor, it becomes politics. And once it becomes politics, no one seems to remember what the real issue was anymore, and then the issue gets dissipated in the system.
Just to chip in,
but
why is it that it's only one particular party?
So would you no, before you chip in, would you agree there is a relevant for us to politicize?
What's happened over the years?
We
issue of political interference in the operations of the regulators. When the regulators are actually going to crack down on some things, the powers that be says stop. I'll give you an example. It was in the news that a former finance minister was saying that, or was accusing this current government, okay, for not shutting down Menzgold. But my issue is, you're a deputy finance minister. It was your time when Menzgold started. Why did you not shut it down? With all the knowledge that you know now, why did you not shut it down in the first instance? And it's the same party that, you see, we can talk of Piram, right, from 95. You can talk of DK. You can talk of God is Love. When NDC were in power, when these things came up.
So you agree people are right to politicize?
You have to. You see, the thing is, it's a failure of leadership. And leadership starts from the top to the bottom. Right? We vote parties in power to govern Ghana. You see, we're talking about governance. You chipped in and talked about corporate governance. Corporate governance is not just banks. It's about every person who has economic enterprise. So from a sole trader, from a partnership, from even churches, because churches are charities, there has to be level of accountability. So if politicians are not being accountable, it's a cultural thing that permeates across the society of Ghana, right? Politicians are not doing what they have to do. Board chairman. And to even hear that a board chairman is in church saying that, or wherever it is, that I was the board chairman, I wasn't an executive running the day-to-day activity of a bank, so I'm not responsible. You see, it means that the person didn't even understand the basic role of a director. You understand? These are things. You see, my understanding is that there should be a system where even if you want to be a member of a board, not just a bank, any state institution, talking about corruption, there are people who come and they are members of boards or they are parts of directors of a public company or institution. When their government leaves, another government comes and they say, oh, these people are corrupt, let's charge them for causing financial loss to the state. It's all because directors don't know their jobs. If there is a system to actually get people to understand what they are doing, you see, causing financial loss to the state, corruption and all these things will stop.
Okay, Doc, let me come back to you. Can we not have like solid regulators or solid institution in place? So these people will be like very robust, and regardless of which party is in place or which party is running, these institutions will make sure like this is a financial institution, regardless of who is in power or who is doing what, we are going to make sure the right thing is done. Can we not do that?
Of course. I mean, that would be the most ideal situation. That would be the most ideal situation. And as Keke said, all these companies or financial institutions that came into being around the time when a particular political party was in power, and all these banks or financial institutions actually collapsed in that regime. Obviously, it's all because of political interferences. Now, we do know that our democracy is very young, and so some of these things would always come into it. But as a people, we need to be able to step aside party politics and start demanding from our leaders to do the right thing. Now, we shouldn't sit down for our leaders to all the time try and bring politics into every single situation, and then we also buy that and we run with it. That shouldn't be the case anymore. We should be, as a people, able to step aside, forget about political differences, and whenever something goes wrong, we should demand from our leaders to do the right thing. Now, that shouldn't be because it's party A or party B which is in power. But whoever the leader is, whatever the incumbent political party is, we should be able to demand from them. And it's only when we're able to do this that our institutions will be strong, because they know that people wouldn't bring politics in this situation. Somebody can belong to the same political party as a particular leader of a financial institution, but when they go wrong, even though they're a member of our party, we should be able to take them to court. We should be able to speak up and tell them that, look, this is what you've done, this is the decision you've made, it is wrong, and you need to account for that.
Right.
See, the key word is accountability.
Accountability.
Naming and shaming people. You see, you can be we've mentioned names, right? Or we've insinuated or we've alleged certain names, right? The thing is, these are people that we think are honorable people. But the fact is that they are fallible, they are humans, right?
Yeah,
so we have to shape everyone into line.
Right. I'll point you with these questions. With the Bank of Ghana, and then and SEC and its top regulators and so on, do you think warning the public was enough?
I've said
in the
it
cases,
was never enough.
And interestingly,
you did not
interestingly, event has already occurred with DKM and so on and so forth. Those customers who lost their money through that were not given any warnings DKM, as it happens.
Problem with DKM was it's a regulated institution. Okay, so when the customer deposits or the company collapsed, Bank of Ghana, as I understand, had to go through the process of liquidation, right? They had to go through the process of liquidation, and as part of that, you see, once the company goes down, you sell the assets of the company, you give it to the debtors, because when you are selling stuff, there's a hierarchy of who has first rights, who has second rights. It's only after you've done those things, then if there's not enough money, then regulators come in. But the issue is this: if you are regulated, your deposits are ring-fenced, so people will definitely get their money back. So it's only when you are not. What
about those ones which were not regulated? That means your investment or your capital is not ring finance, so you're going to lose your money eventually.
You're going to lose your money, but there are still other remedial courses you can take. Let's say, for instance, Bank of Ghana didn't do what they are supposed to do to shut down DKM. Let's say Menzgold, right? With respect to money laundering rules in Ghana. If my family member was or had invested in Bank of Ghana, right? I'll sue Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
I'll sue SEC.
You sue SEC.
Yes.
Well,
because they have not done what they are supposed to do.
Writing a warning letters and notice to the people was not enough. What procedures? What was the appropriate procedures?
Should Bank of Ghana follow it?
That's right.
Let me explain this, right? So Bank of Ghana regulates all the banks in Ghana, with no exception. Okay. So Menzgold.
It was not a bank. Menzgold was not a bank.
Menzgold, all the money people give to Menzgold, Menzgold in turn has to deposit it in a bank, right? It's a business. Menzgold would not tell Ghanaians.
But were there licenses to take deposit, take money from people?
Forget about that aspect. Bank of Ghana has warned them. So that warning is something to say you are doing something terrible. And under money laundering laws, you need reasonable suspicion. So that warning fulfills that criteria. And now let's go to banks that my Bank of Ghana regulates. That's where my problem really comes in. Menzgold customers, when they give their money to Menzgold does not keep it under a bed or in sacks. They actually have bank accounts. Is that not the case?
That seems to be the case.
Okay, if that is the case, Bank of Ghana regulates all these things, so they should have warned the banks
that were taking
money from Menzgold,
that company,
and all the principals, executives within Menzgold, that they were also helping to perpetuate money laundering offenses. And these banks or Bank of Ghana should also have been working in concert with ECO and telling them that these banks are actually taking this money. So let's start investigating them and freeze all the accounts of Menzgold. And once that is done, at that point, I know I've invested 2 million in Menzgold. I've not to. I'm just saying that. I've invested money in Menzgold. And say Menzgold goes to deposit the money and the accounts are frozen.
But for me, I have investment there, but I just need one female artist for me to balance the situation.
That's a joke he always goes by. Don't take him serious. Which one?
No. Becca.
I understand she's married, so be careful. Unless you want to be the second husband.
I just want to exchange my investment with her and I'm done. I don't need my money.
No, but we don't do barter system.
Let's bring him back on this occasion.
But that is only a joke. Don't take it too serious. He's a big fan of Becca. And yeah. What's your favorite music? What's one of your songs that you love?
Shed Your Diamond.
Shed Your Diamond. Shed Your Diamond. And now, me don't find that now.
Oh, Shed Your Diamond.
For viewers, this guy was actually crying when Becca got married.
Yeah, but back to the issue.
Yeah.
So, what you were giving us the procedures or the appropriate steps Bank of Ghana and its bosses should have done to stop the whole thing going further, right? I'm going to come to you, Dr. Prince. This same question will bounce back to the expert. Should it be the responsibility of the government to pay the victims of this banking, especially those who are not regulators? Because those regulators ones, the expert from his view has said their capital was ring-fenced, so regardless the bank collapsing, they were going to get their money back. But
not a case of, that they will get their money back. But, when Capital Bank collapsed, Bank of Ghana did an asset sale to, GCB. So GCB just took on the depositors. When you're a bank, you first of all give money to Bank of Ghana. So that is what they call capital adequacy. So the money you take and you give to Bank of Ghana to keep for you. So that in case of any emergencies, that is the money plus other things that Bank of Ghana will give to you. So in terms of all these banks, when they were going wrong, or say they were collapsing, Bank of Ghana was now able to say, okay, I've got this money from this bank, together with other things, that's what we are using to pay. Right. You understand what I mean? But Menzgold one didn't have capital adequacy. So
that means
it's tried to flout everything.
So Doc, do you think must it become the responsibility of the government to pay the victims?
I need to start from a certain angle to answer your question. Okay.
Just jump from the angle, quick.
quickly, brief one. Now you asked earlier that was warning the public enough. I think, well, my colleague here think that wasn't enough, but I think it was knowing what we know today. It was a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah, it definitely was, but it wasn't enough.
We do know that Menzgold was actually registered in 2015. Now, less than a year after that, Dr. Kofi Wampa, who was the governor of Bank of Ghana at the time, actually sent out the first warning. In 2016, another warning came. In fact, on 28th November 2017, another warning came. Now, if you look at all these timelines, people were still dealing with Menzgold.
No, but not when there was music and their favorite musicians are telling them go.
Of course, that's something we can also discuss. That is something we can also discuss. Okay. Now, despite all these warnings, people did not even pay any attention to all these warnings. Now, there was a time when Bank of Ghana tried to actually shut down Menzgold, and customers of Menzgold actually came out to protest vehemently against that. And then Menzgold also engaged the services of all these musicians. And then they actually gave it so hard to Bank of Ghana.
But musicians are not regulators.
I know musicians are not. That's what I'm saying.
It's like someone committing a crime, right?
Knowing what we know now.
Ricky.
As I said, on 28th November, another warning was issued. That tells me that Bank of Ghana was doing what?
A bit of help. That's right.
Bank of Ghana is not a warning.
I know. Listen, they were
just
looking.
Step in and then take action straight away.
If you allow me, if you permit,
Bank of Ghana is a watchman.
If you permit,
Bank of Ghana is a policeman.
I wasn't talking when we were talking. So
they should have just gone and then stop.
Permit me to make my point. As I said earlier, this is a new government in power. This government had promised jobs. Okay, these jobs are not ready yet. So you can't tell me. You can't tell. Listen.
Are you saying that
let me finish.
Because of jobs?
They need to be careful what action to take. Listen, if it had happened that actually Menzgold has sat down with them and they looked into their books and they were doing the right thing, closing them down prematurely would have caused a lot of problem. Knowing what we know now, they were doing the right kind of investigations to get to this
What
thing.
investigation have they done so far?
Wait, today we know that just asking Menzgold to stop taking new deposits, Menzgold is going down. Don't forget that Bank of Ghana hasn't shut down Menzgold yet.
They should have.
They haven't even shut them down yet.
They stopped them.
They only stopped them.
Bank of Ghana
They only stopped them from.
That circular.
They only, whether or not it's SEC or Bank of Ghana, they only stopped them from taking new deposits. That means that their suspicions were right. You see, and they did the right kind of. Don't forget that this.
But as an institution, you don't have to act on suspicions.
You do. You need reasonable suspicion. That's the key word for money laundering.
You need to suspect that they are not doing the right thing to go in.
But I
think they couldn't just go straight in.
Even if you do,
they could.
If you do, how long must you have to wait before you take a proper action?
That's the thing.
You see, my issue is
not when customers, not when
forget about the customers.
Listen,
you see, he's talking about jobs, right?
You can't because you need to take that into perspective,
right?
You need
UT Bank has collapsed.
You need
Construction
to
Bank has collapsed. All these banks have more employees than Menzgold.
Yeah, but you don't kill more jobs.
But they were shut down.
You don't kill more jobs. So what do you mean by
that's why you
need due diligence.
You understand what I'm saying?
Due diligence.
Menzgold. How many employees does Menzgold have?
How many customers? How many customers of these banks?
If they had shut them down before, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't even matter.
That is not an issue.
If you have 5
if you are doing the
million
right thing, you don't
employees,
care about.
and it's not the right thing. It's wrong. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
It's wrong. Yes.
Employees,
I know. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Whatever is wrong, it's wrong. If you have a single employee and you're doing the right thing,
not when you don't have all the evidence available to you to take that action. the fact that they warned them before stepping in meant that they were investigating.
It took them 2 years.
And they did not. Yeah.
My problem with that investigation is
if that's how long it was going to take them to get to that end.
Bank of Ghana
today,
Bank of Ghana.
we know. Today we know that they are actually taking steps in the right direction because Menzgold isn't operating as it was operating in 2016.
But you see, the thing is, let me be honest. Let me be brutally frank, right?
You got me brutally frank. Let me come from this angle.
Yeah.
Bank of Ghana and SEC and so on were taking a step in the right direction, right?
They were.
They were. Fair enough. It took them so much time to reach to this stage now, right?
You didn't even allow me to answer my question. You didn't allow me to answer the question you asked.
I'll come back to you, Doc.
You didn't allow me to.
Situations that has already occurred in the Ghana, that had already occurred in Ghana, like the DKM and Godislav and other banks that just collapsed. How come we never and ever seen any of the bosses who fronted these banks prosecuted?
See, that is...
Because if you don't punish people, tomorrow it won't be Menzgold. I'm going to make women's gold. And I'm going to survive.
Some are saying women's
because I know at the end of the day I'm going to get caught.
So if
let me explain this, right? Okay, Ram 95 NDC.
Did we prosecute the people who done that?
And Akufo, you see, Akufo had his issues.
No, were the people prosecuted?
They ran away.
DKM, was anyone prosecuted?
DKM became, you see, the problem with DKM is this.
No, were the people, I just want to know if we have prosecuted any of these guys,
the law should be this. It's not even just
there.
about prosecution, right? I'll use UK for instance. UK, if you're a director of a company and the company is liquidated, you are banned by law from serving as a director for a certain number of years. Not just a bank, any company. I can form a company today and tomorrow if it goes into liquidation. That happens. You see, Ghana, if you're a director of a bank and your bank collapses, then you cannot serve as a director of another bank, but the law does not tell you that you cannot serve as a director of another company. Had this happened, there are certain people who are holding positions in churches and stuff in Ghana. They should never even hold those positions. You see, it's high time that we make risk management. You know, we should make compliance and also corporate governance. They are still.
Do we even have compliance system in Ghana?
See, the banks do. You see, I've got family members or friends who
the banks do.
They are very good. The banks are good.
Because let me give you a typical example from my workplace where I work. They have something we call morning dawn raid, right? Unannounced, government with its compliance team will just storm the place, boom, and then they will just
seize
go
every
to
document.
one department, seize every document, and then go through. And if you are found doing anything that falls below standard, you and the whole entire institution is in. I've never heard that.
You see what they did in
Ghana.
No, let me explain
I've
this.
Never heard
let me
that.
explain this. You see what happened to GFA?
GFA.
No, when the thing came out, when the whole brouhaha about Senior Entity receiving bribes, what did the Attorney General do? The Attorney General, you see, the Registrar General's department is under the Attorney General's department. They shut it down. Or they tried to. You understand? Menzgold right from day one, from the Registrar General, Bank of Ghana, SEC, even Minerals Commission, they were violating all the rules and procedures that are laid down in Ghana. And we had politicians. You see, that's my problem. Politicians and people working in the Bank of Ghana, according to the Finance Minister's statement, who had invested in Menzgold. You see where the problem is. And now policemen or ex-policemen and ex-soldiers or soldiers are suing Menzgold.
So, Doc, how good it is, you knowing what is right and what is wrong, and you know this is wrong, but still you go ahead and do what is wrong, and you being a leader. Because ex-policeman, and
now the guy has absconded. He's no longer in Ghana. So it means that the policeman gave him a tip-off.
How awesome is this?
It shows how deep our problems as a country are. If we have the very people who have been charged to look after us, to make sure we don't fall foul to some of these things, engaging in these acts, then there's a big problem. And as a country, I think we need to start asking these questions. We need to start interrogating who we put in what position, and if it means that people will start writing certain exams before get certain jobs, we need to start. We need to start asking these questions. We need to start interrogating how key positions are offered to certain people. Okay, if we don't do that, then I think going forward there will be problems.
Right. Mr. Kwesi Frimpong, with your expertise, knowledge, and so on. Now, this has happened. We can't change the situation because it's in the past. And this is not the first one. This is not the second one.
This
not
not
the third.
This is the fourth.
The way forward.
There will be more.
The way forward to avoid the more to come. Just stop it happening. What is the way forward for Ghana as a nation?
I would not tell you that we can't stop it.
We cannot.
You see, we can. It's risk, isn't it? So we can mitigate it. That is the word. We are not going to stop it entirely.
But can we reduce the risk then?
That is where we need to come in, right, as a country.
And reducing the risk, what is the procedure or what steps as a nation?
First of all, education is key. But you see, my issue is this, right? If you notice, Ghanaians vote a lot. We voted how many times? About 6, 7 times, right? Or even 8. But for the first time in 2012, this current president decided that, he'd been cheated. So what happened? He took Electoral Commission to court, right? That's when Ghanaians actually now became to understand the process of voting. We vote, collation, all that. You understand? I am thinking, or I have a view that there should be a public inquiry. It happens in the UK, it happens in America. You see, when there's a matter of such urgency, we should look beyond politics. Americans have a special prosecutor, even though Donald Trump is the president. They are going after him still. So we should have a mechanism where people can come and talk. So then we get to understand what their psyche really is. You see, we can come and talk about enforcement, but until Baumia came and he was saying that, you and me were not there. You see, there's so many things Ghanaians have learned about our electoral process. You understand what I mean? To the extent that by the time, say, Charlotte Osei was not even coming out to announce the results, we all knew who had won. You understand? That's the sort of process that we should also try and encourage on the economic front. Everything in Ghana has become political. You see, politicians and political process has always been holding sway. But now, Ghana has had political independence for how long? 50s, close to 60 years and over, right? Now we need economic independence. We shouldn't always go cup in hand begging for food. We should also start developing our own robust economic system. And to stop that, first of all, we need to stop the leakages, ghost names. You know, there are mechanisms we can stop ghost names in Ghana, but it's not being done. Biometric can't stop that, right? Let's do a public inquiry. Get Menzgold customers, other customers who've been aggrieved in the past, to come and share their story. That's how we can all learn. Because fraud doesn't come in one face. It comes in so many multifaceted ways, right? So we need Ghanaians to now understand that, you see, with mobile money, every mobile phone now becomes a potential bank account, right? There are going to be ways, and now fraudsters have more than 30 million people they can dupe. Unlike before, where they have to go to the bank and try and create Menzgold or something small. Now, just even an app or something can take even 1 CD or 1 peso from your account, and once it accumulates, it's so much money. So we need to get people to talk, then we can all learn. That's the first way of education. But then for the regulators who are tasked with regulation, you see, they should never sleep.
Yeah, they should, because if they are so much robust as you were saying, this thing should.
Their job is not 9 to 5. Their job is 24/7. That's what they have to understand. They should never sleep. You see, it's not about just issuing warning letters. It's about calling those celebrities and just letting them know that their job is even not right. Okay. You understand what I mean? Because people look up to them.
Right, Dr. Prince, from your side, what is the way forward as a nation and as a citizen?
I think as our expert has mentioned, that education, and more education, I think, is the way forward. This issue gives us some sort of opportunity to learn from our mistakes. You mentioned DKM, God is Love, all these other Ponzi schemes that actually occurred in the country in the past. It wasn't as big as Menzgold saga, and we do also know that actually some educated individuals also were victims of Menzgold, and that actually opens up the discourse a lot more, because now we have people who have the voice to talk about these issues, and I hope people are going to listen and learn from their mistakes. I do also think that citizens also must be very, very vigilant. They might take some responsibility, as I said earlier. They should know that money is hard to come by, and if you've been able to be responsible enough to make money, you should sort of extend that responsibility towards looking after the money, making sure you ask the right questions, go to the right places, speak to the right people to make sure that whatever decision you take, it's an informed decision. Now, going forward, we do also know that religion is one of the things that is also hovering over Ghana a lot. People believe so much in spirituality and spiritualism. Now, somebody as educated as somebody, a big political figure in Ghana called Aloti Jacobs, did mention that we all know that Nam1 engaged in Sakawa. Sakawa is a popular term for ritual money. And a very huge section of Ghanaians did believe that the guy was making money from a spiritual source, and they thought his money was never ever gonna finish.
So it was like a spigot that would never be closed.
That was one of the reasons why actually some people.
This is the first time I'm hearing this one.
Yeah, invested their money. Somebody, they thought the guy was Sakawa and was making money
at the expense of other people.
Yeah,
but not them.
From certain sources.
So but I just want you to give us the way forward to avoid this.
That's why I said education. Our churches should be able to educate their members. They should let them know that the only source of making money is hard work, and not through any dubious means. Hard work, education, and engaging in public discourse would be the way forward.
Doctor,
for us as
I understand some church leaders actually have their money invested.
Well, that's something that we could talk about some other time. Well, viewers, we might have to stop our conversation here and then continue some other time. Barack Obama, former president of the United States, once said, Africa doesn't need strong men. Africa needs strong institutions. So we need institutions that work. We need regulators that work. We need securities that work. If these people or these regulators and institutions in the financial sector works, they will protect the ordinary citizens, and they will protect every individual to avoid such occurrences of money or financial crimes in the country. Thanks for joining us, and hope to see you in the next episode. From myself and Mr. Kusi Frimpong and Dr. Prince Boache, we say goodbye.